I'm Rhea.
And I'm Kat. And we're on Snooze.
Let's get cozy.
Let's get fucking cozy.
So, today we are talking about our relationships. Our past relationships, our present relationships, and our future relationships. Let's do a quick spark notes on our current relationship status.
It's very different. I'm in a committed relationship. I've been with Victoria for 2 years now. You know, my girly pop, my girl, my sweet little sugar plum Pookie.
That's what you call me.
I have actually never called you that.
Rewind the last episode.
And you?
And I am happily single.
Mm-hmm.
I've been single for almost a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thriving now.
You're starting a whole new life.
Yeah.
In about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We're cutting it to the wire.
We are tight on schedule. And so today we're just going to kind of talk about the evolution of our present relationship statuses and past relationships that kind of led us to this point, and what we kind of look for in the future.
Sure. I think that even in our last episode, our pace as far as friendships go have moved at a very similar rate.
Yeah.
The evolution of those our friendship relationships have always moved in tandem with one another.
Yeah.
Our relationship statuses, on the other hand,
have been very different.
So different.
Yeah. You have always been more of a dater.
A long-term
dater
yeah.
than I have.
Yeah, trauma.
Yes. While I have been going my life mostly single until this last very serious relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm kind of back to being single.
Which happens. It happens to the best of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I am definitely the type to be, once I'm in a relationship, I'm in it. I'm in it for a long dang while. My very first, which was in episode 1, that boyfriend, Rhea's little kissy boyfriend, that relationship lasted 2 years, I think. Mm-hmm. And then the one after that was 5-6 years on and off. And now I'm here. So, with trial and error, you get it right. Third time is the charm.
Oh no, I have to go through this another time.
Maybe 2 more times.
Anyway. And so Kat's, you can call her a serial dater.
Okay. Jesus.
And I'm, living the single dream.
Is it a dream?
I mean, I am enjoying it. I mean, it's better than being in a relationship that was a nightmare.
Yeah. I think relationships in general, though, I think if I have it correct, would you want to be in a relationship?
I think now that I know no, because I knew what I wanted then, but I think now that I know what I deserve, I can potentially, meet somebody and want to, pursue something with them.
Mm-hmm. How did we get here? Well, okay. Let's just get into it.
Yeah. Let's get all the dirt out.
Yeah, let's
take the garbage out.
That was a good line.
Thanks.
Make that the
taking the garbage out.
You're garbage and we're throwing you out. Another person's trash is another's treasure.
Unfortunately.
But you weren't our treasure. That's all that matters. So like Ray was saying, I think we've never been on the same page as far as where we are relationship-wise. I feel like, I don't want to say I'm more experienced because that's just sounds wrong. But I've just done this more often.
Yeah.
That, my heart's been broken one too many times. And so when you had finally gotten out of this toxic relationship, this was a really monumental time for the both, because then I could step in and be like, oh girl, I know the feeling far too well.
Yeah.
And even when we we talk about inconsoling. Even when we talk about it, the feelings that Rhea shares about how that relationship ended and what went down in the relationship are all things that I felt I related to so to the T.
Yeah, unfortunately, there were many parallels in what we experienced in our separate relationships. Yeah, and you were really good at kind of just telling me that what I'm feeling is okay and what I went through was not okay, and just like almost guiding me out of like that shit show that just ended.
Yeah, and these are, we talked about it kind of in the first episode, but this was definitely, when you were in this relationship, it was definitely a point where there was not a lot of talking between us.
Yeah.
But it was no bad blood or anything.
No, yeah. It was just one of those like lulls in the friendship, and Kat had met my partner at the time a few times. But yeah, explain your point of view. Why that was a lull period for us.
I think let's get into the nitty-gritty details. Fuck it. We talked about it in the first episode. Rhea's personality is very low emotion. Rhea would never be giving me a speech about what good of a friend I am. Okay.
Until now.
Yeah, right. Until now. This is after the breakup. But our friendship is still, I mean, we maintain this, like, it's haha funny, but we both know we care about each other.
Yeah.
And so in this relationship, Rhea introduces me to her partner, and all good and well. They're extroverted. They're easy to keep a conversation flowing. It's fine. I'm happy. I was really happy that Rhea had found somebody that brought out this new spark in you. I would say you were a lot more extroverted, just really infatuated, and I've never seen you in that way before. And so even as the relationship had went on, there was a point where I remember you called me and you were like, "Oh, I'm trying to plan this surprise for their birthday. Like, this is my idea. What do you think?" And it was the most romantic thing I've ever heard in my life. And then to have it come from you was just blew my mind. And I'm like, that was the first moment where I was like, dude, like, she's actually so happy. Like, she is so invested and is trying so hard to break this kind of stiffness to you. I'm like, I've never seen her so vulnerable. And then I go over to your apartment one time and there are love letters on this little mantle thingy. And I'm like, wow, you're fucking disgusting. I'm like, this is insane. I've never seen this side of you. And so in that regard, I was really happy for you.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward kind of into it. You're in the relationship. And there was a point where I could tell you were getting frustrated. But I also knew that you didn't want to talk badly about your partner. Mm-hmm. Which I think happens far too often. It's this very fine line between how do I confide in a friend without making my friend hate my partner.
Yeah.
And have we both balanced that damn line?
Dude, yeah.
So, Rhea's telling me kind of the struggles that they're having and talking to me about like communication, and Rhea's not feeling like she's enough, or the things that the actions she's putting in and showing up for are not enough. And to me, I'm baffled. As her friend, I'm like, this is the most I've seen you ever show anybody like that you care about them. And how could this not be enough? And so it did get us to a point where I just felt bad for you. Mm-hmm. I felt like, how can your partner not see that you're putting so much of yourself into this relationship, into this other person, and yet it was still not enough. Mm-hmm. And so there was a point where I felt like they were getting upset with how much you would confide in me. And I'm not the type, I know that feeling too well, where you want to share how you feel, but you don't want to make your friends hate your partner. And so I would never hold that against your partner ever. Yeah. I would never, Rhea would tell me things and I would never sit there and be like, oh, well, now I hate your partner. I would always keep it really as if I never knew.
Yeah.
And I think that they were really upset that you were sharing those feelings with me. And so...
Wait. I don't think that was it at all.
There was a point where I had felt like they knew I knew too much, and there was this kind of tension between us, or it felt like at some point I wasn't allowed to be friends with Rhea. And maybe that wasn't like so like head on, you could like everybody noticed it, but I would say I felt I noticed it. And so at that point I had kind of decided, okay, like I'm going to let Rhea figure this out on her own. And when she needs me, she'll call me. And I don't ever want to put myself in the middle of their relationship because I'm just a friend. Like, I'm literally just your friend.
Yeah.
And if Rhea and I don't talk for a period of time, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that was just a point where we were just not talking for a while.
Yeah, we didn't end up talking until me and my partner broke up. I think I had just called you one random day, like a few weeks
It was a text, actually. I remember.
Oh, really?
It. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, time had passed. It was like a month or so after.
Yeah, it was a few weeks post breakup where I like just texted Kat, and then I was like, oh yeah, like we broke up, and Kat was like, wait, what? No, you didn't. And I'm like, no, yeah, like we broke up a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Kat was like, oh fuck. And then and then we just kind of started back from where we stopped talking.
Mm-hmm. And then it was, I felt more comfortable to say, yeah, I actually thought this partner was like fucking awful for you towards the end. But, you can't say that in the moment.
Yeah. And I had multiple people around me telling me that this relationship was not good and I should get out of it, while I could and blah, blah, blah. But I ignored everybody. I was just like, shut the fuck up. Like, you don't know this person like I do. You don't know the relationship like I do. You're not in it. And
which is always the catalyst.
Go-to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't have listened. And, part of me thinks back to that time and I'm like, fuck, like, I should have for sure listened to everybody. They all saw it so clearly when I couldn't. But, at the end of the day, I gained experience. I learned so much from that relationship. Mm-hmm. And I learned to listen to the people around me, most importantly.
And I think that what you're saying is so true. I mean, Rhea had seen me, even going back to that point of, like, knowing that someone isn't good for you and having everybody tell you, but you actively being like, no, you don't know them like I do. Yeah. You don't see when it's good, right? I think that you had also seen me in that period too.
Yeah.
And so in a way of being your friend, I knew the space you were in far too well. And I knew that it didn't matter if I was like, dude, like, fuck this bitch that you're with. Like, you need to get out of it. I knew that if I would have said all those things, we just wouldn't have been, there would have been so much distance driven between us that there was no point.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm glad that you didn't like say anything, and I'm glad you let it like run its course, because now we have so much like relationship trauma to kind of open up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. I literally would not have listened to you. I didn't listen to anybody else.
Yeah, that happens. It happens to the best of us, for sure.
Yeah, I was absolutely blinded by love. I was head over heels for this person, and I was like just so infatuated with like the good moments that we were having, even though they were sparse. I was like gripping onto them for like dear life, and I'm like, no, like if we weren't meant to be, like they wouldn't make me so happy in this like small bits of time. But retrospectively, it was like 5% of the time we were so happy with each other and like enjoying every moment.
Yeah.
And then the rest was just like fighting and like being upset with one another and just like not communicating well. Communication was like the biggest downfall of the relationship. And we had two different communication styles. They needed to hear things a certain way. I was not delivering them, that certain way, and vice versa. And that just, pedestaled the end of that relationship.
Yeah.
So you kind of had a different perspective on my relationship. And I kind of want to hear about that, because we talked a little bit about it after the breakup. Because we did have kind of a lull in our friendship for a majority of that relationship. And I kind of want to hear from you why that was.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we've never really gotten into it, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly, like the other, like, acknowledging the elephant in the room, but not, like,
giving Valentine's Day kiss.
Yeah.
This is the Honda Fit moment where we're in the car. This will be it in live action.
Slay.
So, gosh, what did I think about that relationship? I feel like, as your friend, this was the first time I had seen you really come out of your comfort zone. This is somebody who's so stiff and passive when it comes to emotions. And here you are calling me, being like, here's my idea for a birthday dinner surprise. What do you think? And it's like a candlelit dinner, flowers to the table, like, just so romantic. The most cheesy thing I could think of. And to have it come out of your brain was baffling to me. So I think for the beginning half of the relationship, I was really happy for you. I had felt like this was always the person. I knew you had these feelings just based on, I've known you for so long, but to see it really come into fruition, to see you really, giving all of you and stepping far out of your comfort zone to achieve this healthy relationship, to achieve a healthy relationship, I should say, I was so happy for you. As any friend is.
Yeah.
Now, there was a point where we did not talk after.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we, as your friend, and understanding that I can't ever put a me or your partner kind of ultimatum on you, because we're friends. Like, I would never want to put anybody in that position, especially not somebody I've been friends with for so long.
Yeah.
But there was a point where I had realized, okay, me and Rhea, it isn't necessarily, I don't want to use the word safe, but it wasn't the time for us to be friends. And not to be like we weren't friends, because we were, but I just couldn't be an active participant in this relationship. Like, as your friend in this relationship, I couldn't celebrate these moments. Like, I couldn't really be active with you. And that was really hard in the beginning. Like, that period where we weren't really talking was really hard for me.
Yeah, likewise. I was like, wait, what's going on? But
Where did she go?
Maybe this is just one of those times where,
yeah. Which it definitely was. I think to get into the nitty gritty, there was one time where I was just, not my voice cracking. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. There was this one time where I had really, I called Rhea crying. I was like going through it, and I was like, dude, like I want to just like hang out. And I had met your partner a handful of times, and so I'm an oversharer. I was comfortable getting mascara running, like ugly crying in front of the both of them. And so I'm like, can I come over? Can we talk? Whatever. So Rhea's like, of course, like, come over, like come hang out with us, or come hang out with me, whatever. And then she sends me a text like, my partner is going to come with us. And I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. I'm like, let's get into it. So I show up, and your partner immediately goes into the other room, which is odd because this is the first time they're not addressing me. They're not saying anything to me. And it kind of threw me. I'm like in this very emotional state. And, I can tell you're sitting out there with me and you're anxious, and I know that they're texting you and wondering why you're not in the room with them. And so it was just this moment where I was just kind of like, okay, like, what the fuck is going on? But then it kind of became clear to me, like, okay, this is the game that the toxic partner plays. And I think that you were so oblivious. This is your first relationship?
Yeah, this is my first time, hearing this. I've, never heard this before. So I'm, okay, I have so many questions.
But you know what event I'm talking about? Vaguely. You know me, you remember that time I'd come over?
Yeah.
So...
yeah, I'm trying to, put the pieces together, because...
And it's hard to explain. I think if you're watching this and you know what I'm trying to say, read me and stay with me for just a second. But I think that sometimes what happens in toxic relationships is there is a petty game that's played between the best friend and the partner. And it often leads that friend, so Rhea, for example, in the middle. And obviously it usually happens, I would say, in more heterosexual relationships. It's giving very pick me, the girl best friend. It is giving that. But in this dynamic, me and Rhea have only ever been friends.
Yeah.
And
that's all it was ever and all it will ever be.
Yeah, we are, quite frankly, far too different, and just we would
never date each other.
Yeah, we joke about kissing, but
it's
we've only kissed once for fun. But anyway, stay with me. There was this point where I knew that your partner was playing a manipulative game, and for the first time, I was caught on in the middle of that, and I was just so kind of disgusted by that. I was just kind of I had already been hearing kind of about the miscommunications you guys were having and all these other issues. And so to add on this this triangle that they were kind of trying to perceive into our friendship, I was just kind of what the fuck? I was just thrown for a loop. And it was one of these moments where I needed a friend, and I needed you to console me in this emotional state.
Right.
And instead of having Rhea and her partner console me as friends, it was almost like you either console her or you console me. And I'm going to make you feel bad for choosing your friend over me. And I knew, I'm hoping everybody's picking up the drift, because I knew from the moment you would have no idea what the fuck I was talking about if I brought this up.
I still barely understand this undertone of communication.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that. So I'm I'm confused, but I'm following.
Yeah.
I remember that, of course, I unfortunately chose my partner that night because that's what I felt like I was supposed to do, even though I was I knew that you came to me for a safe space, and I had tried to give you that, but then my partner came and kind of made me support them when they knew that you were coming and I needed to support you.
Yeah, and this isn't to say that I'm upset that you are there prioritizing your partner. As you should. You should always be prioritizing your partner in every place, right? And I firmly believe that, but I think at the time, instead of being a collective unit to support your friend, and ultimately your guys' friend, because
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. It had become this petty game. And I knew that, okay, if I go to you and I say, hey, I think that I think that what happened last night, you kind of leaving me in the dust, was fucked up and whatever. I knew that was the exact wedge your partner wanted. And that was really, like, disgusting to me. I was just kind of like, there is no reason for the three of us not to be in
cahoots.
Exactly. To not be working as a unit. Like, I'm Rhea's friend, and as Rhea's friend, I'm your friend as her partner. And in the same way that she prioritizes you, I will always support the relationship because Rhea's happy. And so there is this, like, petty game that gets played, and it happens with all of the toxic people in your life. There is this, like, triangular story that gets played out like, oh, when you choose somebody else over me, it's because you like them more than me, or there's a secret relationship happening. No. And I think it didn't help that both of us were gay.
Yeah.
And even if Rhea's ex never said that, that's always how she made me feel from that point moving on. Mm-hmm. And I knew from that, and in the beginning I was upset. I was like, how could Rhea do this to me, this and that? But I think I sat there and I was like, of course she doesn't fucking know. Like, Rhea's never been in a relationship. She doesn't know the petty games that, like, get played when you're in a toxic relationship.
Yeah, bitch, I had no fucking idea.
Yeah, and I knew being mad at you for it would be, like, fucking pointless.
Yeah.
But I think from that point on, I was just like, yeah, like, Rhea has to see this through. She has to figure it out on her own, because if we stop being friends, that'll make it, when they break up, so much harder for her to come to me and be like, hey, like, this happened and I'm really sad about it. And that was really the driving. I wasn't not talking to you because I didn't want to hang out with you, but it was more so like, I didn't want to talk to you because I knew it would cause more of these, like, manipulative moments.
Yeah.
That would only hurt my feelings in the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I had no idea. I thought it was just one of, like, the lulls that our friendship had throughout our friendship. And I was like, yeah, me and Kat are friends. But, like, this is just, like, one of the times we're just, like, doing our separate thing.
Yeah.
So this is, like, fucking brand new news.
I know, we've never talked about this, but
I had no idea. Damn. That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, I could never be mad at you for it. I think when you finally see it, it's so hard to unsee. Yeah. And you'll see it in friend groups, you'll see it in relationships, and it's truly, as, like, an outsider looking in, it's a really hard thing to witness.
Yeah.
Is having someone's partner drive so many wedges between their friends and their family only to get them isolated to this one partner is so unhealthy and is so manipulative. And I knew that if we were to fight about it, it would only cause more distance. And I was just like, yeah, like, I'm gonna let her figure it out. And as soon as they break up and she lets me know, like, I'll be there and it'll be fine. You know what I mean?
And it really was after we broke up and I reached out to you, and because it wasn't until a few weeks later that I was like,
yeah,
I texted you and I was like, I think it was about something random, but I was like, oh yeah, like, we broke up and
yeah, BT dubs.
Yeah, BT dubs, like, that's over. And you didn't believe me at first. You were like, no way, like, you're lying. And I was like, no, like, seriously, it ended. And then, like, we went back to, like, our normal relationship where, you know, the support came in and just, like, the care came in and just everything that I needed.
Yeah.
How interesting. Yeah. That relationship that's definitely a new perspective I have now. But yeah, that relationship was not very kind to me.
No, I think that it's one thing to just have an unhealthy relationship, and it's another to, and it's hard as your friend, it's hard to watch you be in such a low place and not really be able to say anything about it. But I think just from my own experiences, I can't say anything to this girl. Like, she's just gotta learn it, and that's okay.
And I did learn. I learned so fucking much from it.
But you learned quick. I think that's why I was shocked when you said you guys broke up. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I got broken up with. That's no secret. But yeah, that just, yeah, I learned so much about what I deserved and how I want to be treated in the future. And which I now have brought with me into like the next relationships that I am trying to make with people.
Yeah, and they're important lessons to learn, for sure.
Absolutely. I don't think I truly would have understood the magnitude of how deep these things can sort of get unless I was actually in it, because I saw it third person from you and your past relationship.
Oh yeah.
So I was kind of the bystander in that, where I was like, I don't know much about your relationship, but I know like something's not right, but I don't think I'm in the place to like flat out say it. I just knew that I needed to be there for you as a friend at any call or text or whatever. So yeah, I'm like, a part of me is like now glad that I didn't listen to the people around me and just kind of like suffered through everything. But I'm also like, damn, I need to start fucking listening to the people around me and my friends and just that, because they can clearly see things that I don't when I just have hard eyes for someone.
It's true. And you know, it happens to the best of us. Like you're saying, even in this on and off relationship I was in, there were so many times where I wasn't saying what was actually going on in the relationship, because I knew that when people would tell me, hey, like, I don't think this relationship is right for you anymore, they were 100% right. But when you're in it, you can't let it go. I mean, it's like it's holding on to the good 5% of the times where it's so good.
Yeah.
And it's just like grasping onto those for dear life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even post breakup, I like, after all the anger kind of left my body and all of that and started to miss my ex, I was just like holding on to that 5%, and that's all I could think about. I'm like, yeah, but like I'll never find somebody who like makes me feel like that. And then like, you know, I'd snap back into fucking reality and be like, no bitch, like that person like made you feel like shit on multiple occasions. Yeah. This person said such mean things to you that nobody who's actually in love with you would say to you.
Moreover, to that point, I think even reminiscing on this 5-year on and off relationship, you do get to a point where you realize, like, okay, the way that this relationship works is not healthy. And I think, unfortunately, you had to learn that really quickly.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just this, I'm sure this will come out in episode whatever, but my parents had gotten divorced in the pandemic. And so they've been together since I was a baby, a newborn. They were already together when my mom had me. And so they were going through this divorce. And so there was this moment where everything I had learned about a relationship was solely mirrored on this toxic relationship my parents had like put out in front of me.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about like, oh, the things that my partner would say to me are so mean, that was not something I learned until very recent.
Yeah.
For, you know, retrospectively recent. And so like thinking about that past relationship, there had definitely been points where showing up for my partner and vice versa, the way that they showed up for me was so awful. And it was so hard to unlearn those things because that's all I had ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think that was really the driving force to be like, okay, this is not what love looks like.
Yeah.
This, when you're angry and you say things out of being mad and this and that, and you say the most out of pocket and hurtful things, this is not love. If you loved somebody, these would not be the words out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And I think that I had kind of gotten to a point where I was just like, yeah, like, this is not love. This is not this when you're angry and you're saying all the fucked up things that you say. Like, you would never do that for somebody that you care about.
Yeah.
And I think you've learned that pretty quickly in that relationship, whereas it took me so long to unlearn that.
Yeah.
And even now, like, I have to actively remember the way that I communicate, but it's been such a growing process that I thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
I enjoy the type of partner that I am, and I think that
you're so much happier now. I can like see it, I feel it in your environment. Like your like your energy is just not like fucking tense all the time. It's very just like I'm happy and I'm like not afraid to show it.
I agree. I think it took a lot of therapy. But to unlearn all these unhealthy habits is something that I've actively been working towards. And even before meeting Victoria, I really dove into like trying to better the type of partner I am, better the type of friend I am. And I think we joke about it in the last episode, being cutthroat.
Yeah.
But it was really out of, I need to set myself up to be surrounded by the best people that I can.
Yeah.
And it started with friends, and it put a 5-year relationship to rest. And now here I am. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm putting in all the type of fucking work.
Right. Yeah. And same. I mean, after that relationship, I learned a lot about myself and how to communicate, because God knows I wasn't the best communicator in that relationship. There was definitely a lot of room for improvement. Mm-hmm. And I've had the time to reflect, and like, even like you said, in your friendships now, in my current friendships, I start off as an open book, like, ask me anything and I'll tell you. Mm-hmm. Like, everything comes from a very vulnerable point now, instead of, having to fucking pry me open and get anything out of me.
But it's not a necessity too. I mean, you have to give some to get some.
Right. And I think the people around me gave me like the support and the space that I needed to feel safe enough to do so.
Yeah.
Because in that relationship, thinking about it retrospectively, it wasn't very much like a safe space. Like, no matter how much we worked together to make it a safe space, all the fighting and all the tension and all of that, like, was not helping me open up.
Yeah.
I was honest in the relationship. I, was a giving partner. I was a supportive partner. But I didn't feel like I could be absolutely vulnerable in all aspects. And that definitely put a divide in the relationship at certain times, and for a lot of the time too. But I also think that feeling safe in order to do so is very important. And I didn't learn that until after that relationship ended, because I'm like, I have no problem opening up to the people that I like feel safe around and can have these sorts of conversations with. And it just was a learning process.
I think the way that you just put it is perfectly said. I think both of us are in this era of only allowing ourselves to be in a safe space in every capacity. And I think this is where we are a little bit different, is I had to do it in the friendships in order to do it in the relationship. And you went the opposite. You had to do it in a relationship, or outside of a relationship, to be more exact, in order to do it in these friendships where now you are thriving, and you're creating a safe space for you and surrounding that space with people who only ever nurture that safety. And it's a hard thing to maintain.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think where we really come together is in our family paths, like creating that safe space in our family dynamics.
Yeah.
Which, episode 4 or 5, one of them.
One of the next few episodes.
Yeah. But I think the way that you said it was perfectly said. I think, although we took different paths to get there, all we've been working to, and even when we joke about how I manifested Victoria on this full moon. But even in that, I had really decided this was what I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted a partner who would make me feel safe, who would take care of me, who would read me and understood that I wasn't perfect, my communication style wasn't perfect, but would work with me through it. And God sent.
Yeah, I really like hearing that. Because it gives me hope, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, you'll get there, Jess.
Yeah, just because in my last relationship, it was very much like me accommodating to their needs.
And it's exhausting.
Dude, I've never been so drained in my entire life because I was, like, trying so hard to appease this person and, like, appease their needs. And, like, even though I couldn't hit the mark, it was never, like, enough for them. No matter how much I, like, tried and, like, put effort into, the effort was never seen.
And it beats you down. Like,
it beat me to a
internally,
fucking pulp.
Yeah.
Towards the end, like, I was reading, like, journal entries that I had, like, written towards the end of the relationship, and I was, like, I'm so sad for myself now reading that back, because I'm like, no, like, you should never have felt that way.
Yeah.
I was writing, like, maybe I should let them go because I'm not, like, what they deserve. And, like, knowing that I felt like that at some point, it's like, no. Like, it's just so sad to hear that it was that deep.
And there's something to be said, like, reminiscing on that past relationship, there's, looking at it removed and stepping back, there were these moments where I thought, I have 2 younger siblings, and they're in this point where they're starting to date more seriously, and it's less, oh my gosh, they're so cute, haha. And I would be disappointed to see my sisters endure some of the feelings that I endured in that relationship. And so that's kind of that switch that just happened where I was just like, yeah, like, I would be embarrassed to see this happen to somebody else, especially somebody that I cared about.
Yeah.
And so I should be extending that same feeling of protection onto myself as well. Like, I deserve that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've a younger sister too. She's a bit older than your sisters, and she's dealt with her fair share of traumatic dating experiences.
Yeah.
But even in the way she talks about them, I'm like, no, yeah, this for sure fucking stems from the family dynamic that we grew up with.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm like,
I wonder that too.
Yeah,
like, it has to be trauma.
There's no other way, because, like, how else would we have endured so much shit from one person? But then also, at least for me, my younger sister, she's 22, so
older.
She's much older, and she's been dealing with kind of the same shit too. And I'm like, this has to stem from how we grew up and how we saw our parents' relationships.
Yeah. I think that episode will be the harder one for us.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'll speak for myself. The next episode will be even more testing than this one.
Yeah, I think the next episode is for sure going to have me talk about things that I have not thought about in a very long time.
We'll have to do that one unscripted.
Yeah, because, girl, I don't even know where to fucking start.
Well, maybe I will write a script.
No, I mean, Greek traditional parents.
Enough said.
Well, thanks for tuning in.
This was our relationships. Hopefully you learned something. If you didn't know about the petty game, now you know.
I didn't, and now I know. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rhea.
I'm Kat. And this was Snooze.
Good night.
Good night.